Hey guys, welcome back to the channel Gen Dick Commando. My name is Ryan and I'm a former Royal Marines Commando from the United Kingdom, and I predominantly react to American based content. Okay, we're getting back to our old school reactions, guys, and these ones seem to be doing pretty well on the channel, so we're going to keep on going with it. Today's video is how did the English colonize America? I think this is going to be a pretty good one. The one we did yesterday or the day before with regards to the War of 1812 got a lot of interest, so I'm going to stick to this theme of video. You guys seem to like it, and I'm going to respect that, guys. So before we get into it, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you haven't subscribed already, you might as well. It really does help us out. Want to become a member, press the join button or press the link in the description. It helps us out even further doing this content every day. But I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you guys before we get started. I really do appreciate you all. Boom.
The history of the colonization of North America is one of the most well-known formations of any country across the globe. Spain, France, and Great Britain all played crucial roles in the development of what is now the influential United States of America. But today, most people particularly remember the colonial efforts of the English above all else. So, how did the English colonize America? To understand how, it first behooves us to understand why.
Yeah, fair point.
A few factors were significant in determining the reason for England's colonial efforts. A summary of these justifications can be found in the 1584 work of Richard Hakluyt, known as the Discourse on Western Planning. Hakluyt claims that English colonization of the New World would be not only to the benefit of England, but furthermore to the benefit of God. He made a common argument that Protestant...
Right, so, I mean, nowadays it might be a little bit hard to kind of comprehend, justify it, but back then, obviously, religion was a massive part of decision making. We see that throughout history, throughout the ages, especially in the military as well. Yeah, so I can definitely understand it, thinking way back when how religion played a part of it. Now, I don't think it would even matter too much, to be fair.
Protestant England needed to rescue North America from the Catholic world and the current hold that Spain had over much of the continent. Of course, England and Spain had more than just a religious rivalry, but the point was often a compelling one nonetheless. Furthermore, Hakluyt acknowledged the obvious economic and social possibilities that New World colonies would provide. Since there was currently an overabundance of job and landless vagabonds plaguing England, Hakluyt stated that the establishment of a colony would provide more land and job opportunities for these homeless men and women. Moreover, the expansion of trade alone would produce great profit for England, and the resources the New World may provide were vast.
Yeah, so it's really a golden opportunity if you can do that, if you can explore and then colonize and profit from it and give people jobs, new opportunities, all of that kind of stuff, then it's only a win-win situation, really. So I can understand from that perspective, and especially England has grown as an empire as well. Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
These points made by Richard Hakluyt were echoed throughout England, and combined with the visible success of the Spanish beginning to produce envy from the English, a decision to enter the New World was made.
And just think about it back then as well. If you didn't have very many prospects and then you heard this new vision of a new world, all right, and it's been publicized as well. Like, you know, if you go over here, there's new jobs, there's going to be trade, you're going to have money, there's an opportunity to live in a fresh new land and all of this kind of stuff. I think it would have been exciting for those, especially those who weren't doing very well in life, those who were, you know, not really earning too much money and stuff. It would have been a great opportunity to just say, you know what, forget about the lifestyle we're living now, let's crack on and try and create a new lifestyle. Pretty similar, actually, to most guys that I served with, including myself, for joining the military. I wanted a new life. I wanted to step away from the normal crap situation I was in, and I wanted to better myself. So I can definitely understand that.
Queen Elizabeth had chosen to opt for a less typical route of joining the colonial world by sponsoring sailors known as sea dogs that participated in a form of
Sea dog.
piracy identified as privateering. Two such sailors by the names of John Hawkins and Francis Drake were sent by the Queen to wreak havoc on the Spanish in America. The privateers, and the latter in particular, plundered Spanish ships and raided caravans even as far as the coast of Peru. This unprompted attack greatly angered Spain, and the discord between the nations drastically increased even further after England had the Catholic Mary, Queen of Scots, executed in 1587. The following year, King Philip II of Spain decided to retaliate in what would become the largest-scale invasion to yet occur, with the goal of annihilating the British Navy, and boasted 18,000 soldiers, 8,000 sailors, and 130 ships. The Spaniards made no mistake in targeting the British Navy, which played an extremely crucial role in the nation's trade and colonial power. While the Spanish ships notably outnumbered the British, the latter were better equipped with more suitable ships for such a clash and quickly beat back their attacker. The Spanish...
That's the thing with the British, the Royal Navy. We developed everything pretty much in regards to naval warfare. I think we were pioneers, we were revolutionaries, we renowned for our navy. Well, maybe it's nowhere near as powerful as we used to be, but everyone who is powerful now is as a direct result of how we were back then, all right? We set the blueprint, I think, for the Royal Navy. That's one thing that I think really can't be disputed. Our Navy was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. We conquered the seven seas, I'm quite proud of that fact.
Fleet had to turn back, heading for the Netherlands to gather reinforcements, but an unexpected storm ripped through the remaining Armada ships, leaving the English as the clear victors. Now, it was time to focus on the colonies. As the 16th century came to a close, some attempts had already been made by England to establish colonies in North America, but so far, none had succeeded. Sir Humphrey Gilbert was one of the men in charge of such efforts, and had hoped to
What a funny name, Sir Humphrey Gilbert.
create a colony in Newfoundland, but had miserably failed. John White, in 1587, had also made a similar attempt on Roanoke Island alongside 150 other English colonists, but the colony quickly ran out of supplies and resources. White returned to England, where he intended only to gather what he needed for his colony before heading back, but he ended up trapped in his native land for over a year due to the current situation brought about by the Spanish Armada. When White was finally able to return to Roanoke Island, he found his colony completely abandoned, and his efforts in vain. When the 17th century began, with still no solid English colony in the Americas, Queen Elizabeth passed away in 1603, leaving the future of England's colonial efforts in the hands of King James. The following year, peace was made between England and Spain, and in 1606, King James established the Virginia Company, beginning a new wave of efforts to find colonial success in America. 3 ships, in particular the Discovery, the Susan Constant, and the Godspeed, set off for the East Coast.
Some good names right there.
Arriving at the James River in spring of 1607, the colonists reached the fairly uninhabited region of Virginia, which they would shortly name Jamestown. This would become the first permanent...
I think Jamestown still exists, and it still exists in the same format, same place as it did back then, right? I think, anyway. Let me know in the
English
comments.
colony in America. Contemporarily, King James had also granted a charter to the Plymouth Company, but their Popham colony was disappointingly short-lived. The Jamestown colonists did fare better than those from Popham, given that their colony didn't collapse, but the endeavor was still a harrowing one nonetheless.
That would have been awesome to be part of something like that back then. It was brand new. I mean, there's nothing really brand new anymore, especially on this world. I guess it would be the equivalent of us, you know, colonizing Mars or something, you know, the first steps, the first leap into that direction. I mean, Elon Musk and stuff are talking about that situation. Hopefully it's within our lifetime, okay? Or within my generation at the very, very least, you know, and I think it'll be as exciting as that. It's a brand new world, it's a new endeavor, it's a new thing. And that would excite the hell out of me. You know, look at these guys. These are building forts and new lands, and they're stating claim, and they're making it British sovereign territory and stuff. And I don't know, we're an amazing time, scary time as well. Obviously, there's a lot of death, a lot of war, but that's what happens when there's a power shift, when there's a power divide, when there's a power takeover. And if you're colonizing anywhere, there's definitely a power element to that, because resources and all of these things, trade routes, new people, more people, all of these things create wealth. And where there's wealth, there's tyranny, and where there's tyranny, there's men at the top trying to take money. And it's always been that way. I guess it'll probably be the same if we ever did colonize different planets, Mars or stuff like that. Who's going to be the people profiteering from it? Probably is the people getting you there in the first place. And then, you know, the currencies and all of that type of thing that get established on that planet, resources that can be sold. You know, we are thinking a bit crazy here, but, you know, it's only a matter of time before these things open up.
1617, only 351 of the initial 17,000 colonists remained alive.
Wow.
The men had been widely unprepared for the life of hard physical labor, and the land itself was not as easy to utilize as they had hoped. Many starved, while others fell ill. And if it had not been for the help of the local Native American tribe, known by the colonists as the Powhatan Confederacy, the English may have all but perished. Powhatan's roughly 10,000-strong tribe was incredibly efficient at utilizing the difficult terrain for hunting and farming throughout the Chesapeake. With more than enough food and potentially benefit to gain from the colonists' manufactured food, the natives were fairly welcoming and greatly assisted the sickly Englishmen in their first winter.
Wow.
In the years to come, though, matters were not so simple.
You know, you don't hear stories like that, do you? You do not hear of people talking positively of the natives, all right? In the beginning, they actually helped out the English, helped them out when they were sick, helped them with food, water. Just shows the love and compassion that they had in the early days. Not this offensive, not this dominating, aggressive people that we hear in many stories. This is quite the opposite of that. And it's, again, it's something that I think needs to be spoken about more. Sometimes I've heard one or two comments on the channel saying that the Native Americans today are privileged people. And my answer to that is why shouldn't they be? They should be a privileged category of people in America, because they were the original settlers there, all right, and they were pushed out of their local towns amidst all the hospitality they give. So, you know, at the end of the day, I think they should be protected. They should be looked after. If anyone should be privileged, then why not the original settlers? I mean, how can anyone argue with that?
The English continued to starve and perish from disease, even despite help from the natives, as 400 new settlers arrived in Jamestown in 1609.
It's not a lot of people.
As the general well-being of the colony continued on a downward spiral, the relationship with the natives also began to deteriorate. Occasional guerrilla wars started to break out between the colonists and Powhatan's tribe, and the English were still starving. The fate of Jamestown seemed scarcely hopeful. No major improvement appeared until 1614, at which point the daughter of Powhatan, Pocahontas, married an English colonist by the name of John Rolfe. This, at least, began to ease tensions between the English and natives. The young colonist...
I thought that story was completely made up by Disney. I'm not going to lie. Right, that's very, very interesting. That really took me back.
They also started to see some new changes and leadership, and the discovery of what would be their savior, tobacco. The Jamestown colonists were rescued by a boom in demand, being native to the New World and immensely popular from the start of its first exports to Europe. Within 40 years, the Jamestown exports were amassing £15 million per year.
What?
The colony had...
That's some serious dollar right there back then. And now, guys, we have the answer to the video why we colonized America. We can end the video right now.
Suddenly gone from a dwindling, starving group of migrants to a rapidly growing colonial power in need of more men for the increasing number of jobs the new market was providing.
That is crazy.
As Jamestown's success kept building, the colonists began expanding the English territory beyond its original borders, which unfortunately brought them back into conflict with the natives. Powhatan's brother succeeded the chief upon his death in 1622 and vowed to rid his land of the English. On March 22nd, 1622, he and his tribe attacked the colony and massacred 347 colonists in a single day.
That's
this,
outrageous.
however, in the minds of the English, justified years of fierce brutality. The new method of how the English would continue to colonize America was vastly different than how their competition, both the French and Spanish, had done the same. For the English, they had received a bit of practice to sharpen the skills they would use in America, back when they had begun their efforts to take Ireland from the native Catholics. As the English decided that they no longer needed to put much effort into coexisting or assimilating the natives into their new colonies, they began utilizing violence against the native people to seize their land and take control. And between war and disease, it wasn't long before the Native Americans had been disastrously affected.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to look throughout the ages. All right, the Romans did it, then we did it. English, the United Kingdom, Great Britain, whatever you want to call it, and when all else fails, violence prevailed. Back in them days anyway, there was a lot of scope for it. We can do things this way or we can just do it the violent way. And violence just worked. And I don't know if it's a thing to be proud of, but it's something that we can definitely reflect on and understand and accept. The English, we were pretty damn good at violence back then. I certainly can't take any credit for that because of the generation I was born in. We haven't been a part of that, but I can certainly take understanding and reiterate it back. The English were pretty good at violence back then, and it worked. So the answer to this whole thing could be summarized really: how did we colonize America? By brute force, by violence, by power, by practice, with what happened in Ireland. We were just at the right place at the right time with the right skill set, and no one had ever done that before. So, yeah.
There was also a building distinction in the eyes of the colonists between themselves and other peoples, which made them even more determined to establish an English dominance throughout North America. And as their positive view of the natives quickly decayed, the pre-existing supremacy of English Protestantism over the Spanish Catholics in the minds of the former had now stretched beyond religion, and they had the power to enforce these ideas. The English also had the power and means to establish more colonies with even greater success than they had so far achieved. Eventually, Virginia, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, Connecticut, South Carolina, North Carolina, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and lastly Georgia would make up the English 13 colonies, which would later form the United States of America.
It's amazing.
If it had not been for the newfound tobacco industry in the original colony, it's likely that the English would have never been able to colonize North America permanently, and the pure demoralization may have prevented any further success or even attempts at trying again. But instead, the English were able to establish multiple booming colonies whilst also bringing an impressive profit for the crown and boasting enormous economic success.
Fantastic, man.
Make sure you subscribe.
That was really interesting. So without running the risk of being offensive, you know, my very simplistic take on the whole thing is we colonized America with brute force, with experience, with violence, and it worked. And it just makes me think, you know, we get on about the close ties between America as it is now and the United Kingdom as it is now. It's obvious to me. You know, we can forget about like the way we currently are. We can forget about us fighting in the past, because effectively, and I do say this simply, it was a lot more complicated than way I'm gonna put it. The English were effectively fighting the English. Does that make sense? The English colonized those lands. You guys were English, Irish, some Scottish, some Welsh. The United Kingdom, all right, as it was. We came over there, we colonized, did all of our thing. You guys fought for independence, all of that. But really, we were fighting against ourselves, English against the English, who now, obviously you guys are Americans, you've got your own identity, but your stock, your bloodlines come from Great Britain. And I think that's a great thing. So we wonder why we're so close now. We're the same people, effectively. Like, come on, there's no real shock here. You know, it's not like not like it was India who colonized and then how are we getting on or how are we not getting on. The English colonized and effectively were fighting each other. You know what I mean? Why do we get on so well now? It's because we're the same people, effectively, from the same bloodlines. That's just my take on it, guys. If you've got a different take, drop a comment below. If you like this video, please drop me some feedback if you do prefer these videos. It seems to be that way. If you do, I'll keep on doing these types of reaction, guys. But please like, share, and subscribe to the video. If you want to become a member, please consider pressing that join button or press the link in the description. And if you are already a member, then thank you very much, guys. You are supporting me in a way that me and my wife can't thank you enough for. So thank you. Peace.